Have you ever been downtown and wondered, how do they build those tall skyscrapers? How do they build those high rises that you see on the waterfront? And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly that. I'm gonna pull the veil back and show you what's behind those fences, what's going on, what are carpenters, iron workers, electricians, what are they doing to build those tall skyscrapers, to build those beautiful buildings. I'm going to show you that in this video. I went downtown, got some drone footage for you guys, and I'm gonna show you with the compilation of everything that I have as far as like cell phone footage, pictures, drone footage, to give you the picture of what it takes to build a skyscraper or a high rise in a major city as a carpenter. Hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.
Most people will never get beyond these gates, and so they don't know what's going on behind there, right? And so I want to do it this with my job is to explain what's going on behind there, but also use my little drone to show you exactly what the process looks like and what's going on beyond these gates.
So as a carpenter, you're going to start off the very first step is doing the initial slab. That's setting the foundation for the building, right? And then you're gonna do layout and you're gonna start doing columns. Now, when I say columns, columns are rebar that's encased in concrete that's gonna follow a pattern all the way up the building, whether it be 2 stories or 100. It's the same exact process. You're gonna do rebar, it's gonna go up from one level to the next, it's gonna stick out a little bit, and then the rebar guys are gonna tie another cage to that one and follow it up. And it's your job as a carpenter to make sure that the columns are lining up all the way. Now, if you have it moving forwards and backwards a couple inches, that's a problem because the structure as it goes up, you want the columns to be in the same exact place so that all that pressure is aligning through the columns. You know what I mean? The columns are the skeleton of the building, and that's what gives it the rigidness as it goes up. So if it does compress, you don't want the pressure going, you know, a little bit over this way, a little bit over that way. That can cause structural integrity issues. So that's why as a carpenter, it's your job to have a great layout guy. I've been on jobs where the columns were forwards, backwards, and as you look outside and you've seen it going up, you can see the columns moving different directions, moving forwards and backwards, and that is not safe for anybody. So it's important that as the columns, they go up, that they're all kind of lined up. And after you get the columns done, it depends on the concrete system. Some are gonna be hand set system where they're just gonna build the forms around the columns as they go and then take that apart and do it again each time. But if you're doing a really big job, they tend to use tables, and tables are a system where they build a form, they'll land it right next to the columns, and then you'll fill that in with plywood around there, and then they'll pour the they'll build the deck around the columns like that, and then they'll take those pieces and fly them up over and over again and land them and continue that process all the way up. Now that's a little bit faster. That's what I'm familiar with. That's like a Luma system. I've done that with also with Perry with smaller tables, so that's also a part of the process. So after the columns are set, have been poured, and you land either the tables or the handset around there, you're gonna build what they call a deck. Now a deck is pretty much gonna be the next level above the one you just previously were at, and that way you can have people land materials, whether it be, you know, the form for the outside of the building and iron workers. What's crazy is you could be building like half the deck can be complete and iron workers are already on there. They're gonna be laying down rebar, they're gonna be laying down high tension cables. And so as you're going, you're getting chased by the iron workers. It's your job to stay in front of them. It's your job to make sure that you're giving them everything they need. And while that's happening, the plumbers are coming through, and they're dropping their little stay form things where instead of drilling a hole for the concrete, they'll put a little plastic form saver, and it'll secure to the deck. And what happens is, as the concrete pours around that, it leaves a void, and you can just demo that little piece out, and then they can just drop, you know, their pipes in there. So it saves so much time and process. And especially with high-rise buildings, you do not want to be drilling into that concrete because that post-tension cable is very dangerous. After it's stretched out, after everything is done, the concrete's poured, and then they tighten that post-tension cable, that's what stops like earthquakes from making buildings just collapse, right? As technologies progress, they figured that if you put like a high tension cable, it's kind of like piano wire inside of the concrete, it gives it more rigidness, and it lets it move a little bit without cracking, and it gives it more structural integrity. But if you were to cut one of those cables, I've heard horror stories of, people cutting a cable and the cable coming out of the concrete, flipping out and like cutting someone in half, cutting people's limbs off. So that's why if you're an apprentice or a carpenter, never, ever, ever drill into a deck if you don't know what's under there. If you're not given direct orders to drill in a certain area, because most likely your foreman and superintendent are going to know exactly where it's okay to drill. Make sure you double check, because you do not want to be the person to roto hammer into post-tension cable and have it, potentially hurt somebody or maim somebody. So make sure you figure that out first. So after the process, you're going to build the whole entire deck. You have edge form around there. They'll have all the rebar will be tied, and it's going to be a whole bunch. You'd be surprised, even with a 4-inch slab, how much rebar it takes each level. So other people worry about their job, there'll be a crew that's worried about the core, and the core has a lot of rebar. It's a huge cage. It's actually pretty impressive to see like all the intricacies of how the rebar goes in there, different angles. You'd be surprised to see, all that stuff going in there. And then you put the concrete forms up for the core. You'll start pouring the concrete. You have a crew that will come there. It'll be a mason crew. They'll be the ones that pour the concrete. They'll usually finish it. They usually have little ride-along machines that trowel, because doing it by hand would take forever. And also, you have to actually walk on it too. So once the concrete is cured enough to walk on, you're gonna start setting columns, because once the slab is poured, usually in the next 2 days, you're gonna have columns being poured and the core being poured around the same time. So then you can start getting ready to fly the tables from underneath to land them on top of that. So as soon as that's done, the process starts going faster and faster and faster. Before we get too far, I forgot to mention, there is gonna be a crew that usually works underneath, and they're gonna be the stripping crew, they're gonna be the table crew, the one that's actually flying the tables from underneath. They're gonna lower the jacks and they're gonna drop the tables down, right? So it's gonna be like a 5-inch drop sometimes, depending on how tall each level is. And when you do that, sometimes plywood stays attached to the ceiling. So it's the stripping crew's job to strip the plywood from the ceiling. Now, sometimes the plywood is near an edge, and so you need to make sure that you drill a hole into the plywood, wrap a rope in there, and have it attached to something inside the building. So if you were to pry it loose, it wouldn't fly off the edge and maybe catch in the wind and land on a car, or catch the wind, hit a passenger. You want to make sure that you're thinking outside of what's happening in the building, because again, you are working in a major area where sometimes you're going to be right next to the sidewalk where there can be passerbys going all the time. Also, when you are flying the tables, you're going to be wearing fall protection, and make sure you're never putting yourself in between the table and a leading edge. So you're always keeping in mind like where your body's positioned at, and where the tables are. And also, you're wearing the fall protection because you're going to be within that 6-foot leading edge. You don't want to slip and trip and potentially fall. So make sure you're taking the proper precautions, because you don't want to endanger yourself or anyone else. And the tables are now landing on the next level. After everything's cleaned up, now it's time to reinforce that story, because even though the concrete is cured, it's dry, everything is all ready to go, it's still not strong enough to handle all that weight. So as carpenters, you're going to come back and put reshore under certain points where the tables were, and just throughout the building. Usually your foreman's going to lay it out for you, and as you go, you'll understand more and more like each level. You might take pictures. Okay, what's the layout? and they'll give you the dimensions, and then that's going to be the same dimensions every single level. So usually it's 2 layers under the current level that you're at are going to be reshored. Now usually the one right under the one you're at, you might have double reshore. That's because it's still curing. It's not at its proper strength. The proper strength can take up to like 21 days. I think that's like 3 weeks. So you have to make sure that it's reinforced, that it's not taking on more than it can handle. And then as you go, as you go to the next level, you'll remove that double, make it a single, and then move the doubles up to the next level. And that's what the reshore is there for, to give that more reinforcement for the building as you go up. So one of the things that you'll see is, as you're, probably 3 or 4 stories up, you'll start seeing other trades will start coming behind you and start, finishing the building. And it's weird because you'll be constantly like pouring concrete, doing extra layers, and underneath you, they might have, the sheetrock done. They might already start like installing windows, dense glass. The building is getting built right underneath you, and they're chasing you. That's why you have to be efficient. You have to get faster as you go. For us, when I first started on a concrete building, it was one of the first big concrete jobs that the company I work for has done. So the first few floors, there was growing pains. You had to figure out, okay, how do we do these things? How do we fly the tables faster? How do we strip faster? How do we make sure we strip the floors and take the plywood off the ceilings faster? But as you go, everybody gets in a groove. There'll be the guys who do the decks, and they get faster. The guys underneath fly tables faster. And as you get 7 stories together, if you guys have the crews and they stay where they are, you will get so efficient. You'll be surprised. You can go from doing 1 floor taking a week or 2 weeks for the whole process. You can turn it over to 5 days. It all kind of depends on how fast the concrete gets done, how much it rains, all those things. But you can get so efficient that you can really just bang those things out. You'd be surprised how fast you put a building up together. As you're doing the concrete, you're going to have other carpenters. They're going to be installing dense glass. That's the pretty much the drywall that's on the outside of the building that siding's going to attach to, weatherproofing is going to attach to for the rough openings. Windows are going to be getting installed, and it's crazy that you'll see half the building be still bare bones concrete, and one part of it will be glass. And that's a prime example of the Ritz-Carlton right now. It's 2/3 is already the glass already installed, and at the top you still have exposed concrete, and it's just a crazy process to be a part of it. I love it. One of the things that I love about being a carpenter is when you're doing all the concrete and you're building the buildings, it's very difficult. It's not easy. It's usually wet. The days are usually long when you're pouring the concrete. A lot of times you're gonna be miserable, but once it's all done, once you get to look back and see those buildings, there's a couple buildings I was a part of that are right off the freeway, and I get to point to my kids and say, listen, I made that. I was a part of that. How many people can say that? You know what I mean? How many people can say that I left an impact on the city that I love, the city that I'm a part of? It's just cool to, see all your efforts culminate into something like that, you know what I'm saying? And I just love the fact that I'm able to, be a part of that. Now, are the buildings made the same way they're made in the past, with a lot of the different aesthetics, and the different little flourishes they have, older buildings? I know that I worked at the historic U.S. Bank building doing restorations, and some of the things they did, as far as the columns and that kind of stuff, was beautiful. I know now we kind of do more sharp lines, a lot more glass everywhere, but I mean, they're still doing dope stuff, whether it be in Portland or Seattle. I've seen some crazy buildings in Boston. I just love the fact that as carpenters, we get to leave our imprint on the cities that we work in, the cities that we love, And then again, you can just be proud of the fact that you had a big part of that. Like I said before, building these high rises and skyscrapers is really rewarding because these buildings are going to be here so much longer than we are. And so it's just cool to have something that is going to signify our hard work manifest in a building. So hope you guys liked the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. I have more content coming more consistently. I've been under the weather a little bit lately, but now I'm trying to pump out this content for you guys. I'm going to switch things up a little bit. It's not just going to be trade content. It's going to be a wide berth of stuff. But again, I'm going to put everything in playlists, so if you like that stuff, that's where you'll find it. Also, I had a lot of drone footage. I had to cut a lot of stuff down because the voiceover wasn't really matching. So I'm going to put a little bit of the footage at the back end so you guys can watch it unedited, see if you guys like it. If you guys want to have a conversation, please join the Discord channel. It's always there for you guys. If you have any questions, recommendations, hit me up. Let me know. Thanks again, and I appreciate you guys.